Welcome in, everybody. You are watching The Good Shepherd on YouTube and across all social media platforms. I am joined by a living legend, somebody who is a Hall of Famer. Andrew Bernstein goes by Andy Bernstein in NBA circles. He says he's retired, but I don't believe him. Andy, great to have you on the channel. How you doing, my friend?
I'm good, David. Thank you. Yeah, I don't like that word retired because it means that I was put out to pasture, playing golf. I wish I played golf, but I didn't grow up with golf in Brooklyn, so never took up golf, never took up fishing. My wife needs me out of the house, so I've been building this Legends of Sport platform for a long time, and I needed the bandwidth now at this point in my life to devote 100% of my energy. And I really enjoyed my photography career. I'm so grateful for everything that happened, all the people along the way. But as the Mamba himself said, there comes a time when you got to hang it up, and I knew when that time was about to come.
Yeah, well, listen, I mean, as you've alluded to and told me off the air, you're still very much connected with the NBA
Mhm.
and doing consulting work, so your impact is still very much present. And I'm just curious, before we get into Kobe Bryant and celebrate Mamba Day, because I believe this is a day which should be a huge inflection point
Mhm.
and a huge, just appreciation of one of the great historians that sports has ever seen.
Yeah.
When you grew up in Brooklyn, did you envision yourself being a Hall of Famer and winning the Kurt Gowdy Award back in 2018 for print journalism? I mean, that's got to be. Did you envision that for yourself?
Hey, when I grew up in Brooklyn, I had to figure out like my biggest challenge was like how to get to school in the snow. I mean, I, I, or how to get picked as the shortest kid on my block, for basketball. But
Right.
no, I did not, and I didn't. I honestly didn't even give a thought to if there even was a basketball Hall of Fame, much less a Gowdy Award, which I don't even think back in the '70s there was one at that point. Um, but I did know that I loved photography from the age of 14. My dad bought me my first camera, and it was pretty much attached to me like an appendage all through high school. I think the big joke in high school was who's going to come in the room first, Andy or his camera, because I had my camera with me 24/7.
Yeah.
That progressed at the University of Massachusetts, where we had a daily newspaper, an award-winning daily newspaper, and I gravitated. I think maybe my first or second week of school, and basically lived there in this little dungeon of an office that we had in the student union. And it was great because the photo editor was a wonderful guy named Chris Bourne. He was a senior. I was a freshman, and he saw that how dedicated I was. He made me assistant photo editor like the second month of my freshman year. So I'm giving out assignments to juniors and seniors, but keeping all the great ones for myself.
Yeah.
So so it really helped me. It helped me kind of hone my skills, but I knew I had to take a leap of faith if I wanted to really push this into a career. Um, and that's when I decided in my beginning of my junior year that I was going to transfer to Art Center College of Design, way out in Pasadena, California, which could have been on the moon as far as I was concerned. I'd never really been, past New Jersey in my life, and that was very fortuitous. I was in the right place at the right time. I started assisting for Sports Illustrated, and the rest is history.
So, Andy, it's a history that is part of NBA history,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't tell the story of the NBA without your work in the 4+ decades that you have been at the top of your game,
Yeah.
and that has coincided with a deep friendship with Kobe Bryant.
Mm-hmm.
And when I think of Kobe Bryant, you are one of the individuals that I associate with the Mamba. Um, you were there for his first game. You were there for his last game.
Yeah.
You're the only photographer to make that claim. I believe you've taken 500,000 photos of Kobe Bryant in a professional setting.
Yeah.
And so, as we celebrate, reflect, honor Kobe Bryant on August 24th,
Hmm.
I'm just curious. It's hard to believe that it's been 6.5 years since his passing.
Hmm.
First off, is there a particular photo that really resonates with you?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, I will correct you in one sense because I was there for his first game and his last game, but I actually went back to his first time in a Laker uniform was on Media Day 1996, which were almost coming up to the actual date of it. It was sometime late September 1996 where he put on the Laker purple and gold with the number 8 for the first time. And I literally took his first picture in a Laker uniform and his last picture in a Laker uniform when he dropped 60, dropped the Mike Mamba out.
Yes.
And yes, you're right. Probably a half a million photos, maybe more. The NBA was, getting overloaded with my film back in the day. Half his career was in the film era, so they have archives and filing cabinets full of my stuff back there in NBA photos in New Jersey. Um, but one photo that sticks out, David, man, probably the one of I like to call it Kobe and Ice, where it's a black and white photo. I shot it during the 2009-10 season, and I actually was embedded with the team doing a book with Phil Jackson, which turned out to be called Journey to the Ring. It was the Lakers' journey from training camp until however the season ended, actually ended in Game 7 of the 2010 finals. And Phil and I decided to do the book in black and white, and that was during the dead of winter, a road trip. The team had just played in Cleveland the night before. He was hurting both ankles. This looked like watermelons, and his busted finger like in two or three places. And he's willing himself to play in a very not very private setting, the visitors' locker room in Madison Square Garden in New York. Usually Kobe could find a place where he could do his pregame meditation and all of his pregame rituals, physically with his trainer. Madison Square Garden didn't have that. It still doesn't have that. The locker rooms are tiny. There wasn't even like a storage closet he could have gone, which we actually went to over the years. But so he was willing himself to play. I like to say that photo really has the four pillars of the Mamba mentality all in one picture. I mean, it really is. If you break it down, four pillars are obsession, curiosity, relentlessness, and strength. And if you really look into that photo, every one of those pillars is being represented. So, not an action shot. It's people look at my work, the early Kobe, all the dunks and the MVPs and the trophies and the gold medals and all that stuff. This is not about that. This breaks down the Mamba mentality, what he was about, into one photo.
Andy, as someone that has been up close and personal with Kobe for decades, and you obviously were such a huge part of the Mamba book that came out.
Mm-hmm.
You were obviously the front cover, and no one was surprised by that. I think for a lot of non-Laker fans, there's this perception about Kobe, especially for most of his career, not so much the last season, that he was aloof, that he was distant, that he was very regimented in what he wanted to accomplish, and he wasn't necessarily about the team. And if you got on board, he could accept you. But if you didn't, he wouldn't have any use for you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe that is a misconception about
Yeah,
Kobe? Because there's a lot of, unfortunately,
yeah.
he didn't have the best reputation in his early playing days. I think that's a little bit overblown. What say you?
Um, I think it's pretty accurate. You left out one other trait, which was impatient. Um, the young Kobe was upset, absolutely beyond obsessed. I mean, obsessed. You can be obsessed with what you do. You're probably obsessed with what you do. I am with my craft. But there's a point where you go over the edge, and it's so consuming, 24/7. And this was the young Kobe since like 8 years old, and high school Kobe, and then coming in as a as literally a teenager into a league full of men where he had to prove himself. Um, under a coach, Del Harris, who I love dearly, but Del didn't really like playing rookies his entire career. Um, so the young Kobe was impatient. He expected a lot out of his teammates, but the difference was when the young Kobe became the more mature Kobe, which basically was the 8 to 24 era, right? And he became a husband, and then he became a father, and he realized that there could be other things in life that could still be fulfilling, could still be obsessed with basketball, but it is possible to put the basketball down and be a husband, be a father, be a better teammate. And then, of course, he was a mentor to the younger guys on the team. And then look across the league. And all we have to do is go back and look at the Redeem team in 2008. And then how those guys, how he set an example for all those guys. Every one of those guys speaks about that. They do in the documentary. Um, but the difference was that the young Kobe had an expectation of his teammates to be as great as he was, right? Nobody could be as great as he was. He was the top echelon of the half of 1% of greatness that we've ever seen in the league, right? The more mature, seasoned Kobe changed that and morphed it so that he wanted you to be as great as you could be, not as great as him, but as great as you could be, and then take that to another level. So, case in point, perfect example of that is Pau Gasol. Okay, Pau comes to the Lakers in 2008, arguably one of the top 2 or 3 big men, and maybe one of the top 5 players in the game at that time. Comes from Memphis. Lakers engineer an incredible trade for him. Pau comes in. Obviously, he thinks he's great. He's got a resume to prove it. And then he's got to be a teammate to this guy, to the Mamba, who pushed him beyond any sort of expectation or potential, which Kobe hated the word potential, because potential has a ceiling. When you say somebody has reached their potential, they've reached whatever that ceiling is. He believed that everyone could exceed their potential, right? Everyone has it inside of themselves to go beyond even what they think they're capable of doing. That is really, to me, the true essence and message of the Mamba mentality, right? In any walk of life, even as a parent, as a coach, as a CEO, doesn't matter what you are, right? You can take yourself and your team or your teammates. So if you go back and your viewers go back and look at Pau Gasol's Hall of Fame speech, right, where he talks about that he wouldn't be standing there getting that orange jacket and being enshrined into Springfield into the Hall of Fame if he hadn't been teammates with Kobe Bryant, because Kobe pushed him to be greater than he ever thought he could be. And what an unbelievable gift that is from anyone.
I got to be honest with you. And again, we're with Naismith Memorial Hall of Famer Andy Bernstein, one of the greatest sports photographers to ever
Mm-hmm.
live, and is not retired, is in pivot mode, for the record.
Pivot. Thank you, David.
Um, I've never heard that description and that explanation involving potential.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
When we think potential, we think of what we're capable of. We think of what we're striving towards. We think of achieving greatness. I've
Yes.
never heard someone look at potential and say, no, like that's a limitation.
Mm-hmm.
That's a barrier. Get rid of that.
Yeah.
Eviscerate that. So that's fascinating. Andy,
Yeah. When I
yeah, go
speak
ahead.
when I speak to youth groups or Rotary clubs, or I speak to CEO, I speak to people, all kinds of groups. People are like have the same reaction as you do, because let's say you're leading a team, a sales team of 30 people,
Yeah.
and you have these goals that the company sets for you or whatever, and you achieve those goals. Well, that's great. You're earning your salary, you're getting your bonus. But like, what if you just raise the bar higher and you surprised the bosses like, yeah, you wanted us to get here, we got here. And then we can get there. So that's very motivational. And when you're doing it from a standpoint like he did, like Kobe did in the second half of his season, where he was, after the 9, 10 championships, he didn't play on very good teams. I mean, his teammates were pretty average.
Andy,
Um,
excuse me for interrupting you because
yeah,
you're going to be able to relate to this.
hmm
I cannot explain 2011
yeah,
because that game one against Dallas could have gone either way.
yeah, yeah,
And that was Bynum's best year.
yeah,
Or no, excuse me. 12, I think, no, excuse me. 12 was Bynum's best year, but
mhm,
Bynum was even better in 2011. You
yeah,
still have Lamar.
yeah,
You still have Prime Powell.
yeah,
Derek Fisher is still very serviceable.
yeah,
I don't know. For the life of me, I will never understand how
yeah.
a prime Kobe Phil Jackson team gets swept in the second round. I will never understand that.
You know, I don't know either. And that I was there obviously for that. And
Yeah.
you know, didn't Phil retire after that game, right? He retired after that game in Dallas.
Yeah, you know he was gonna come back.
Yes.
That's but then they said, but then
Yeah.
it was Jim
Yeah.
that said, no, I think we're better off with Mike D'Antoni for whatever
Right.
reason.
So
Yeah.
I think it was, as Phil likes to say, dead man walking. I think it was, the karma wasn't right. The feeling with the team,
Yeah.
the kill or be killed mentality that they had, back in the first three-peat and then in the Powell and Kobe repeat. Um, it just wasn't there, and the supporting cast. You'd name some good players, but the supporting cast was not very good. I mean, it was very average. I mean, I look at
Matt Barnes was on that team, if memory serves me
yeah,
correctly.
Matt, of course, but you know what? It wasn't their time.
Yeah.
Um, didn't Dallas go on and win the championship that year?
Well,
What?
yes, they did. They had a young Thunder team that they
Yeah,
beat in five in the Western Conference Finals, and then
right.
obviously the
Yeah,
famous six game series against Miami
yeah,
when Dwayne Wade and LeBron James thought it'd be a good idea to mock Dirk Nowitzki
yeah,
being sick, and then
yeah,
he went sick on them
yeah,
for the
yeah.
final few games of that series, winning Finals MVP.
Yeah, it'd
Yeah.
be like mocking Michael Jordan and losing.
Yes.
I mean, just like shut up and play. You know what
Right,
I
right.
mean?
But Andy, I'm curious, and this is this is fascinating to just really hear
Mhm.
so much in-depth stories about Kobe. For you personally in your life, when you think of Kobe, what's the most important thing that he taught you?
Oh, wow. It never stop striving to be better. He made me better in my craft. His craft was with a basketball. He was a basketball player. He's an athlete. But I saw what his work ethic was like. I wanted to match that in my work ethic. I wanted to find things in my game, so to speak, that were different. That's why I created a couple of camera angles that no one had ever, one in specifically, no one had ever done before. Almost every camera, how many places can you put a camera in an arena, a remote camera in the rafters, in the catwalk, through the backboard, on a railing. We even had human beings who worked, back in the day when we first started doing this, who acted as like human remotes, literally, like they held the camera. That's how the Jordan 0.6 shot was taken. That
Yeah.
Fernando Medina, uh, was in his camera, but I actually clicked his camera. That's a whole other conversation. Um, so watching him, from when he showed up at 1 o'clock in the afternoon or something for a 7:30 game, it goes back to early in my career where I was so inspired by Magic's work ethic, by the lunch pail mentality that Magic had, which came from his dad. Magic and I talked about it. His dad worked two jobs, like Magic's whole life growing up in East Lansing. And this is what he brought to the NBA. Everyone thinks of Magic as being, flash and smile and Hollywood and glitz and Showtime. Yes, he was all of that. But this guy worked really, really, really hard. And I saw it in practice. I saw it in the game. The team could be up by 30, 35 points, and he's on the bench and he's still cheering and sort of coaching from the bench with his teammates, right? So, Magic paired with Pat Riley and his Schenectady, like hard Scrabble kind of way of coaching. Another guy, people look at him, the Armani suits and the slicked hair.
Yeah.
That's all window dressing. Pat Riley is one of the toughest competitors, one of the greatest basketball minds, right? And the perfect coach for that team. Just like Chuck Daly was the perfect coach for the Bad Boy Pistons. Chuck came out of a hard scrabble upbringing in the Philadelphia area.
Yeah.
But people have a perception, right? But
Andy,
having met him,
as a basketball historian, and we
yeah,
both are,
yeah,
and God rest, what was his nickname? Daddy Rich, right?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Listen, great coach. I know
Great
he
coach.
loved his players.
Yep,
I get to work with Rick Mahorn
yeah,
on Sirius XM. I know how revered he is by Isaiah and Rick
yeah,
and Bill.
yeah.
The thing I always have an issue with is how he decided to go ahead and coach the Dream Team,
Uh-huh.
knowing what they did to Isaiah. Because
Yeah.
it should all be about, and the reason you and I love Kobe
Hmm.
was there was a rare loyalty that he demonstrated that isn't really seen from athletes of the past 20, 30 years.
Yeah, yeah,
And when Chuck needed to be loyal to the most important player of his entire career,
yeah.
he turned his back. I don't know if you
Well,
think that's fair or unfair, but that's where I sit.
yeah, David, it was a loaded issue, then still is. It's probably a lot that we don't know that happened behind the scenes that was going on with the different personalities. I love Isaiah also, one of the great guys, one of the great fiercest competitors. Not, I don't want to say at his size ever in the NBA. I mean, given his size, forget about it. The guy was unbelievable. He's been a great friend of mine, great friend of the podcast. Um, but we don't. I don't know what. I honestly don't know what went on. It's a million rumors, but I don't like to get into that.
Sure.
Honestly, um, but I do feel, and with all due respect to the great coaches of that era, including Pat Riley, that Chuck Daly was the best coach, the most perfectly suited coach for that group of ridiculous, incredible superstars.
Yeah.
Um, and I saw that every single day at practice, on the bench, um, privately. Chuck was an individual that I was so enamored with. Um, I brought my dad to some of the Dream Team stuff in Monaco and Barcelona. He was always so nice to my dad. It's just all that stuff sticks with me.
Yeah, for sure. Now
Yeah,
I'm gonna put you on the spot here for a second, okay?
yeah, yeah.
And again, we're joined by Andy Bernstein, Naismith Memorial Hall of Famer. Andy Bernstein, a recipient of the Kurt Gowdy Award back in 2018 for excellence in print journalism. For me, my answer is Kobe.
Mm-hmm.
Most everyone has usually one of three answers: Kareem, Magic, Kobe. Now
Mm-hmm.
you were there from the very beginning of Magic's career at the Forum.
Yeah.
So not who was the best Laker, who was the most important Laker in your time covering the team?
Ooh, what a great question. No one's ever phrased it that way. I really honestly would have to say Kobe with a very close second, 1A Magic, 1B Kareem. I came in at the end of the Kareem's era. Um, Kareem still had a couple of championships in him. I wish I had seen the young Kareem Lou Alcindor play, honestly, but I didn't. Uh, I think it's safe to say the Lakers probably would not have won any championships without any of those guys, right? So, the fact that you're pairing Kareem with Magic, we all had the good fortune to see that, and the fact that Magic sort of acquiesced to Kareem's leadership, where he very easily could have not done that, right? I mean, Magic was very much the face of the franchise, vocal, obviously front and center, um, point guard, the whole thing. But he had such reverence and still does for the cat, right? That was wonderful. You know, Kobe and Shaq were an incredible pairing. Just like Magic and Kareem couldn't have been two different guys. I mean, right? Both different upbringings,
Sure.
probably a lot of different viewpoints politically and everything else. But when they got on the court and they put on the purple and gold, and the ball went up for those 48 minutes, they were brothers in arms, right? Same thing with Shaq and Kobe. Could not have been two completely different guys, right? But they were brothers from the minute that ball went up. And that's all a Laker fan really should ask for, right? Because like any family, you're going to have differences in personality. You're going to have differences in approach. Um, just because you're someone's in your family, you don't necessarily have to like them that much, if they happen to be your family. But but again, when the mission is at hand and the mission is to win a basketball game and win multiple championships, I wouldn't have traded those two guys for anybody on the planet.
Yeah. I think that's a regret that Kobe had for a long time, and Shaq. You
Yeah,
know, I understand you lose a heartbreaking finals to the Pistons, and a lot of people felt like you were the better team. Clearly had more talent. Karl Malone gets hurt, so it's a
yeah,
completely different
yeah,
series because of that.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean, you bring up a great point. Now, Andy, this is my last question for you, and we're gonna definitely have you on the channel during the NBA season.
Anytime.
Absolutely, man.
I've
Love.
pivoted. I'm pivoted, so I'm available.
Well, listen, I mean, you're a Hall of Famer for a reason. And I'm just curious, Andy, like when we talk about Kobe, now I'm not going to ask you to put him in the all-time rankings because I don't want to get a million hate tweets towards you because people love Kobe or they hate him. He's so freaking polarizing because
Yeah,
he is the Mamba
yeah,
and he wore his heart on his sleeve. He wasn't afraid to say how he felt. He wasn't afraid to be himself. And because of that, he had so much success after basketball, even in that short window, winning Oscars, setting up, training facilities, being a great coach, being a great mentor to so many guys that wanted to pick his brain, being an incredible author. He was killing it in retirement in ways that we don't typically see from most all-time great athletes. There's usually a little bit of a dip. Not only did Kobe not dip, he ascended his status with what he was achieving off the court. He would be 48 years old today
mm,
if he were still with us.
mm.
What would Kobe Bryant be doing aside from being a wonderful father and husband?
Yeah, he could be like the commissioner of the WNBA. I mean, he could own an NBA franchise. He would definitely have uh, continue to promote and push the women's game to new levels. He'd be really, really, really proud of where the women's game is right now. But I think it might be safe to say that the women's game might be even further ahead if he was still sort of manning ship, so to speak. Um, Gigi had a very bright future in front of her. As a young woman, as a person, as a daughter, um, as a friend, the tragedy is beyond explanation or even words. Um, but I've talked to many WNBA current and former WNBA players. I was just at the Hall of Fame festivities last week. Got to sit down with Candace Parker about what Kobe and Gigi meant to her, and it's actually on the podcast this week. Um, she just owes him so much in terms of how he helped her as a person, as a basketball player, hone her skills, but also prepare herself for off the court. You said it perfectly, David. This isn't something Kobe thought up in like his 19th year in the NBA. He was planning this probably like in his rookie year. I mean, this is the way this guy thought. He saw what Magic was able to accomplish off the court. He saw what other great athletes were able to do. Um, the one pillar of the Mamba mentality that speaks to his preparation for post basketball would be curiosity. This is a guy, Kobe, who literally would call up icons in industry or in politics. Like he would call Barack Obama on the way home from a game. He would call Oprah. He would call Bob Iger, whoever it was, right? I just want to pick their brain as to like, okay, I'm great. What makes you great? And where do we intersect? But what can I get from you that can make me even greater? And case in point, you mentioned it, was the great John Williams. You know, Kobe, huge fan of John Williams' work. He scored probably arguably almost every great blockbuster movie in the last 40 years, right? Somehow Kobe gets John Williams' cell phone number. He's a guy who never really does interviews. You know, John Williams is a very private guy. And they have like an hour conversation. And the next thing you know, John Williams invites Kobe to meet. They discuss sort of putting into motion Kobe's Dear Basketball poem that he released about his retirement on Players Tribune. They bring in Glenn Keane, you know, multi Academy Award winning animator. Next thing you know, the Mamba's standing up there in a tuxedo, kissing the Oscar trophy, the only professional athlete in history to win an Oscar. And it didn't happen just by chance. It happened because he was curious. And the curiosity led to a working relationship because these three great minds worked together to create this once in a lifetime piece of work, right? So there's a lesson in that as well. So the
That's
lesson, David, really is for young
yeah.
people listening and watching this is that there are mentors out there for you to help you in your career, in your life and career. And I would bet 9.5 times out of 10, if you ask somebody for help, they will help you. They will try to help you. They can't help you personally. They will point you to somebody. And that's our job, you know, as adults, you know, with people who are in the business, who have had success, is to help that next generation and to be of service. It's the greatest thing we can do is to be of service and to move on the craft to
You
the
got to
next level.
Andy, you got to tell that to more people in sports media.
Oh, sure. Well, because look, it's very territorial, as you know.
Right.
You know,
Like what you're saying is so wonderful and so
yeah,
pure. And I agree. And I think in
yeah,
different fields, I think there's a fraternity in
mhm,
professional sports. I
yeah,
think in photography, there's a fraternity because it's such a special niche talent.
yeah,
And there's a lot of people that want to do it, but
mhm,
it's a grind. It takes a lot of schooling and a lot of tutelage
sure,
and a lot of education.
yeah,
But with what and you're in the world right now, the space of entertainment,
mhm,
it is brutal. So
mhm, yeah.
I appreciate the optimism and the glass half full perspective. I just wish it was a little bit more than 9.5 out of 10 in sports media.
Well, but here's the bottom line, Dave, is people got to remember where they came from, okay,
Yes.
and where they started and who helped them along the way. You know,
Yeah.
I have mentors almost 50 years in my life. I had I call Neil Leifer a mentor for 50 years.
Wow.
I mean, I wrote Neil Leifer a letter when I was in college. I didn't know him. He didn't know me from anybody.
Yeah.
I got his address through my assisting work at Sports Illustrated. He actually wrote me back, the great Neil Leifer. It's like you're taking one of the heads of the Mount Rushmore of sports photography is responding to me, you know,
Yeah.
and he invites me for a 20-minute coffee at his apartment in Manhattan. Literally, it's like the Neil Leifer Museum when you walked in there. That 20-minute coffee was a 2.5 hour
Wow.
masterclass. And Neil is somebody I could hang up with you right now and call Neil, and he will pick up the phone and he said, "What do you need, Andy? What's going on?" When I was pitching the Mamba Mentality book to Kobe and his team, and then we had to pitch it to various publishers. You know, Neil's done a gazillion books. Who am I going to? Of course, I'm going to call Neil. Now
Right.
he could be, well, you know, I don't want to help you because you know that's going to impact the sales of my book. No,
Sure.
no, no. It, if somebody came to me and they do every single day, all I want to do is open the door and see what I can do to help. I've had a great career. Why not try to pass that forward?
I think a Hall of Fame career would qualify as great. Hey, just a
Yeah,
quick follow-up on what you were saying. When Kobe would make these calls to Barack Obama, Oprah
mhm,
Winfrey,
yeah,
Bob Iger,
yeah.
was this during his playing career? Because you
Oh
know
yeah.
how laser focused you have
Oh
to be the
sure.
face of a franchise, let alone the face of the sport.
Yeah, no, he
So he was doing this
yeah.
while he was the best player on planet Earth.
Yeah, like it could be doing it on the car ride home, you know, after a game or a road trip or on a road trip. Or I mean, the guy was uncanny. And first of all,
Yeah.
he's not going to take a call from Kobe Bryant. So, And it was all about, he wasn't asking anything. He was just picking somebody's brain. And, people at that level, I think they share some kind of extra chromosome or something that they could relate to each other at this high level that the rest of us mortals can't really do. Um, but I'll give you an example of my life. When I started Legends of Sport, I reached out to Peter Guber, the great Peter Guber, that
Yeah.
owns the Dodgers, the
Great
Warriors.
basketball executive.
Right.
Yes.
Peter started with absolutely nothing in Boston, right? His story is unbelievable. There's a book that I'm going to pitch. It's going to be Peter's book, Tell It to Win, which everyone should read, right? Um, and I met Peter a little bit here and there, and he had just bought the Warriors and all that. And you know, he doesn't really know me from anybody. He invites me up to his house, and he's like, "What do you got? What can I help you with?" And I show him the first sort of iteration of Legends of Sport. I don't really know what it's going to be, and he gave me such great advice. Like I carry with me now. It's probably 12 years since that first conversation. And I
Yeah.
see Peter every time I see him at a Dodger game, or I run into him at a Warriors game, whatever. He'll say, How's it going with that? How's it going?" And he actually is interested, and it's a beautiful thing.
The line that I've always heard, Andy, is that the most interesting people on the face of the earth are the ones who are interested.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what makes them incredibly interesting. And
Yeah,
Kobe,
yeah,
with curiosity, shared that trait. Like
yeah,
I said, it's a thrill to be able to talk to you, to be able to truly honor, celebrate, and learn even more about Kobe Bryant. And the fact that we get to do it on Mamba Day is just really, really thrilling for me, Andy. And anytime I get to talk to a Hall of Famer, that's always a real thrill. And I highly encourage anyone that wants to learn more about Kobe, that wants to learn more about greatness in sports and beyond, check
Mhm.
out Legends of Sport with Andy Bernstein. It is well worth your time. You won't regret it. Andy, we're going to get you on back again, and thank you so much for your time, my friend.
David, it's been a pleasure, man. Great talking with you. I'm glad we met through the medium, but now we're friends. So call anytime, man. I'm happy to come on and chat. So thank you.